Let's start with Grayson Rodriguez and Adley Rutschman, because those two have been paired throughout their young careers. Grayson Rodriguez could very well make this rotation come opening day, probably expected to make this rotation, and it's always a show when those two get together.
It is. It's certainly spiced up the camp. Otherwise, it's kind of a, hey, live BP, that's more exciting than bullpen sessions. But when you see Grayson Rodriguez on the mound, it's like, oh, wow, Adley's catching him. That really ramped it up. And Adley just said how nice it was. He hadn't caught him against hitters probably since last May. I mean, Rutschman got promoted May 21st. And less than 2 weeks later, Grayson, who was about to be promoted, we assumed he was on the verge, suffers that grade 2 lat strain, doesn't start pitching again until September, never made it to the majors. So just having them paired together was really cool to see. And Adley said he was really impressed by how well Grayson was throwing, especially the first live BP. Brandon Hyde talked about it today. He said that, the stuff's just electric. He said, we noticed the velocity looked like it was really up, especially for this early in camp. Great change-ups. It's just a really impressive arm. And he was sending major league hitters back to the dugout. It was just quite a showing. Try not to, get too excited about something like that, but how can you not? Because we're assuming every 5 days I'll be seeing those two guys paired off. And, Grayson said he knows me better than I know myself. So he really does enjoy working with Adley. So, yeah, that definitely was like a highlight of spring training.
A battery that the Orioles hope will be together for quite some time. Now, one prospect who is not expected to be with this team, the big league team, at all this season is Jackson Holliday. That's because he's just 19 years old, but he's already getting an experience and a taste of big league spring training, and he's turning some heads, Rock.
He is, and it is very unusual. The Orioles have acknowledged this, to have a kid that age, a year out of high school, invited to a major league camp. He didn't play above low A ball, but there's something special about him. He's a 1-1, and as he said, this isn't his first spring training. It is as a player, but his dad, Matt, the 7-time All-Star outfielder, took him to every spring training. So, he knows the atmosphere. He knows his way around. He's certainly not in awe, but he's really enjoying the experience. The Orioles thought, look, it'll do him good. He was at that development camp beginning of the month, 5 prospects invited, non-roster guys. So let them, kind of get acclimated to the major league staff in that setting. They wanted to continue it there. If they didn't think he could handle it, he wouldn't be here. They knew he could. Now, of course, Brandon's got a lot on his plate and a lot to keep an eye on, but he had to get some eyes on Holliday since the kid's there. Plus, he did get to see him at the camp. He says he's just a very special talent. You can see why he was 1-1. They're very excited about him. And obviously, not breaking camp with a team. It'd be pretty shocking if he made his major league debut next year. And yet, I don't think he's dismissed that possibility. We'll see how quickly he rises. They have plenty of middle infield prospects, but he really is a special talent. And, again, he's very humble. The guys love him. They're taking him out for putt-putt and bowling and things like that. He just blends really well, and you see that face. It's very youthful. He looks like a kid. And you're like, okay, then you see the build and the shoulders and the chest and the arms. It's like, all right, that's a man right there with a 19-year-old's face and a really impressive skill set.
Yeah, somebody that Orioles fans will get a good chance to watch in the minor leagues this season for the Orioles. Now, it has been a normal spring training, but things are going to change once the World Baseball Classic kicks into gear, because the Orioles have a few players who will be leaving to participate. Cedric Mullins for Team USA, Dean Kramer for Team Israel. Then you've got Anthony Santander and Darwinzon Hernandez for Team Venezuela. So those guys are going to be out of camp for a while. 3 of those guys certainly have roles once they return. Darwinzon Hernandez, not so much, but as you wrote on MASNsports.com, he's not going to be penalized, and he won't get less of an opportunity simply because he's going to be competing for Team Venezuela.
Right. That was one of the biggest revelations in camp, is that it is Darwinzon and not Darwinzon, because that's how I've been pronouncing it. I kind of enjoy it that way, but I guess we'll do it the way he wants it, whatever. But, yeah, it is an interesting camp because guys have to leave, and they're really ramping up early because they have to. Mullins and Santander are taking a lot of live BP on the Camden Yards field, on the main field. Like every day they're hitting more than they probably would normally. Dean Kramer has thrown live BP at a bullpen today. He's probably going to pitch, I'm thinking, Monday's exhibition game, get him out there early because they're going to have to leave, and then it's fingers crossed. It's always a risk when you ramp guys up early, especially for a pitcher. Last thing he needs for him to come back with a sore arm, even though I'm sure his manager's going to be very careful with him. I'm sure the Orioles have communicated that to the Team Israel people. But, there's still that slight risk. But everybody's ramping up earlier. And, those 3 guys have their spots locked up on the team. Hernandez doesn't, but as you said, Brandon pointed out, look, we're not going to penalize him. It's an honor for him to go there, represent his country. It's a great thing. He's in the competition. This doesn't keep him out of it now or ruin his chances because he's going to be gone for a while. But he is still a long shot. But depending how the bullpen pans out, injuries, maybe a spot opens up. But yeah, it's been different in that this is Brandon's first camp as a manager where guys have been sent away to the WBC.
Well, part of the joy of spring training is getting to see some young prospects appear in exhibition games. And one of those will start the first exhibition game of the spring. That's lefty Drew Rom, 23 years old, flashed a lot in Bowie and Norfolk last year, and now we'll get a chance to see him. Brandon Hyde has so far been impressed with what he's seen.
He has, and we were kind of trying to guess who's it going to be on which you have a pool, because it's never a guy who's going to be like your opening day starter. That's why you say don't read too much into it. We've seen Jeffrey Ramirez in the past, Thomas Eshelman, who Hyde actually mentioned when he said it's not Thomas Eshelman, it's Drew Rom. It's where you are in your schedule in spring throwing. It's his turn to throw, and obviously he's a prospect. They want to take a look at him, and it's a real honor for him. He is excited about it. He didn't downplay it at all. For him, this is something that really is meaningful to him, and he does think he's going to make his debut at some point this summer. Maybe he doesn't break camp with the team, but look, I could be a spot starter, I could be a bullpen guy, whatever they want me to do. But just to get noticed enough that you're starting the first game, you're going to have all eyes on you, of course. That's exciting for him, and he really did take it as an honor. But we always kind of joke about it. A lot of these guys don't even break camp, but still, somebody's got to be first. And if I'm Drew Rom, I want to be that guy who's first. And it gives you a jump on everybody else to make that impression in an actual game setting.